Alright everybody, it looks like it's live right now. Welcome to our indicator tuning for Sunday the 9th, 2025. I hope everyone had a good weekend. This is Chompsky. If you're new here, check out the disclaimer, check out our indicators. We do a week-long free trial for those who don't own the product. Try it out and see if you like it. This is kind of my journey into automation, and I've been sharing it. Let me make sure we post everything to the Discord real quick here. And I need to post it onto X as well. We have been getting a ton of bots on X. I guess I shouldn't be picky. We're getting some attention. And not to hate on the bots, I'll take it where I can get it, I guess. So yeah, if you want to engage us at X, just look our name up, Chompsky on X, Indicators by Chompsky. And go ahead. Posted it there. We should be live everywhere now, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just real quick, we did have a green week last week. I hope everyone was able to capture some of those good moves. Not a lot of signals. We kind of tuned a little harder than I expected. Let's go ahead and bump out the days to 10 days on our chart. For those that don't know, I'm currently using the ARC Renko BXT 8520 bars. And I wanted to show one more thing before we jump on to the tuning. I'm running a bit of a beta setting on the shark fin for Singe in the Discord. I did mention this. Let's see if I've got it running. I should be running. Was it the bias tag? What did I name this thing? Maybe it was a bias tag. I think it was a bias tag. So if you enable the bias tag, I believe it starts it. Sworn that was it. May have to go back and look and make sure I've got this thing still turned on. Anyway, he had requested that we put a bias tag whenever the oversold or overbought properties became apparent, and so it would have spit one out right in here somewhere. May have another thing going on here. Let's double check real quick and then we'll jump into the tuning. Yeah, it's transparent. Let's make it blue so it cannot hide. And then tags will be blank to begin with, but then you can plug in a tag. So let's just go dot on the tag here. Dot dot. That's kind of funny, but definitely don't do that. If you're going to try to use that as a bias, you need to put a differentiation there between the two, bullish and bearish biases. But just for testing purposes here, let's see if we can get this to show up. Oh shoot, I may have disabled this before I put this into the code, so I'll have to go back and double check just to make sure. But I am working to get a bias code in there. I thought I had it on there actually, and kind of sad it's not there now, but it is what it is. I'll try and get that going. I thought I had it going. I really did. I don't see it anywhere. Oh, there's one. Alright, so it is right there. So as soon as your criteria for a dot is met, that is what should plot right there. Should be black one, normal, clear, I guess transparent before, but it doesn't look like that's the case. So there's another one up here. Yeah, I'll have to figure out what's going on here. I thought I had it working. I don't, so my apologies. We'll jump on to the next the next mission here, and that's to get our indicators tuned. So we're looking 10 days back. We know we did lose a lot of good signal strength on our CWAP, and so I'm not going to really rely on this CWAP setting we currently have. Cutting it down to just the last 5 days, our last 2 or 3 days, it did erode pretty bad. It went below my minimum filter. And if you don't know what the minimum filters are, when you go and tune, you can choose to say, if this thing falls below a certain win rate, I don't want the signals to print anymore. So if we say we require, just for example, let's make it really high. So we have a signal right here from CWAP, right there. So this signal right here, that little green arrow, let's say it doesn't meet our win rate threshold. So if we were to set a minimum threshold of, say, 70% or something like that, we know it didn't hit 70% because it's 64% right there. Let's apply that dot, or that triangle never would have printed because it was not a high enough win rate to meet our threshold. And so it would have had to been, I think it would have been in the 60 range or 60% range for it to show. There it is. So if I set it to 60% right there, the green arrow does plot. And so this is something I want people to be familiar with. It's not something I see on a lot of indicators at all, but this is a very dynamic way to set your win rate threshold to a point where you can actually control the narrative for decaying rates. And so when I tune these indicators weekly like this, I'm going to start really focusing as well on decay rates, because I don't want to fall below a what I would consider a profitable rate. And if it does, I don't want to take those trades anymore, because it looks like that tune is probably no longer as valid as it was before. And this is part of my theory when I tune the market. I like to be a little bit ahead of the curve, a little bit, as much as I can be actually. So we'll go ahead and we'll still tune and see what we can get here. And we will start with the CWAP, because I really feel like we had a really good setting for the beginning of last week. I was smoking it on CWAPs, and then I ended up losing a little bit of that money that I made and gave it back. So it is what it is, but I want to see if we can't get this thing a little bit sharper now that it has decayed a bit. So let's try a few things. First thing I'm going to change are the bars a go setting. I'm going to drop it. So this should make the indicator move faster. And since we had some red news last week, I thought dropping it might give us an opportunity to retain all the settings except for this one. And it looks like that didn't help us much. So let's go up one from 6 to 7. And we are in the 60 percentile, but it's just not looking that great. So I'm going to go ahead and say at this point we need to change some more things. The look back is basically what casts the amount of bars that we're dealing with. And since a lot of these bars were moving really fast last week, I'm going to bump it up a little bit. You can kind of get too big of a bar setting to have good accurate forecasting, but okay, so here we go. So with 200 bars, we have 28 trades over 10 days. 10 were losers, 18 were winners. So we are getting into a pretty decent looking win rate here. I don't hate that at all. I'm gonna try moving this to 175 though on our look back and see if this doesn't not great, but not horrible. I'm gonna move that. Well, dang, I want to almost play around with this right here and just see if we can't muscle out just a little bit more of a win right here. All right, try all of these settings here. Just bump it up one at a time. Wow, we go to 7. These are looking really that good. That's interesting. So we got a slight better win rate, but it's also not that big of a difference. We lost one win and we lost one loss. So the 0 setting was probably, well, no, that shows 12. So 18 to 12 versus, what was the other one? 17 to 9. So we did lose 3 losses there. Ooh. I'm kind of saying yes to this so far. I'm wondering what it looked like 5 days ago. We'll look at that just in a second here because I want to see if we cannot grab maybe just a slightly tighter threshold. Bingo. Okay, so just a little bit tighter threshold. We gained a lot of wins there, so that could just be some luck, but it also looks like it's doing really well. I wish we had that setting last week. Actually, let's do this. Let's drop it to 5 days and see what it decayed to, if it decayed over the last few days. So there we go. So we do lose. We lost some of our settings there, unfortunately, over the last few days, which would have dropped it down into what I would have considered a really crappy win rate area. Now, before we throw the baby out with the bathwater, I want to see what kind of areas are getting trades. And this one right here looks horrible. I mean, it dropped to 45% in this area. And this is not what I consider ideal areas to enter at all. In fact, I would say these are absolutely terrible areas to enter. And I'm not so sure, but if the market characteristics stay this way, I might be tempted to go ahead and say forget it. Before we move on, let's do this. Let's take a look at the 4-hour just to see where we're at. Oh my goodness, whoa. This thing gapped way down on the open and then it's climbed all the way back up. In fact, it's hitting a target almost. That's a CWAP target, that green line. So for those of you who don't know, those CWAP targets are based off of that look back period. It basically says, okay, we go back in time, this is where it's most likely to retrace, and if it hits a threshold for projected target percentage to be hit, I can't tell you all the secret sauce in there, but I have a calculation that's supposed to, if it works correctly, try to say, okay, you have a 15% chance of hitting a target, so it'll plot it, basically, and that's where that's kind of showing that target there. Now that target came from probably down here when it was bouncing, but right now I'm gonna say this is interesting because we do have this bounce here. If you scroll out, we had a very interesting kind of looking drawing from the top here. It looks like we did come down, bounce, and then it slowly came back up and tested this area again. And so I was thinking we might come back down and try and hit another bottom of the triangle area down here somewhere and then wedge out. And if that happens, there's a chance we could end up coming back down and testing this area down here again. But it also looks like we stuck really close to this support area here. And unless it just turns around up here at this area, comes back down, which could happen. I think we're probably going to try to break up higher, but boy, it's hard to say. There's a lot of unsureness in the market right now. I would think it did something like that, but it may not do that. It may actually just go to about here and then turn around. Do something like that, and if that happens, that'd be interesting, but right now, we're kind of looking at this area. I bet we hit the target at the least. Really, really big movements for what little market time has been open. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. We'll go ahead and just say we're still in this rocky, odd market where, you know, we've got a lot of variables playing into the market. So it makes me feel a little bit on the what's the word for it? Just the unsure side, I guess, of things right now. And it does look like we have a CWAP target down here, so It's possible we could get a pullback before we do anything, maybe a bounce afterwards. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try and tune to these 5 days, just see what it does on the 10 days. So let's see if we cannot save this. We'll do it as today's date. I swear we saved one as February, but I don't have it. I'm not seeing it. February the 9th. Okay, we'll save it there for now. If we need to come back to it, we will. 1.3, 1.35. I'm just gonna bump this threshold up to probably about 1.45, 1.5. See if we can't get something better out of these settings. And, well, okay. No, that's interesting. Let's check it out. Okay, that's 70% win rate. That isn't a small amount of trades for 5 days. So, if this doesn't look bad over the course of, and it doesn't, 10 days, it held. Alright, so that's our setting, guys. I'm going to stick with this. It's a 70% win rate. Unfortunately, there are very, very few trades going back to 10 days. I was hoping it'd have more. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one, guys. Torn on this one. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot for not having enough trades. 12 and 5, that's only 17 total. Let's see what was over 5. It said, I think we had a bunch compared to that. Oh, okay, so 10. So, I mean, it could end up being a situation where we don't have that many trades overall, but if they're gonna give us good trades, I don't really care. Let's see what we got going here. We do have the exits turned on, so there we go, is one. That's a great trade. I like that trade. I don't hate that at all. Really good run on that. That's the kind of stuff I want to catch. Well, that's a loser, but it's in chop. Kind of got lucky in that. Well, I say we got lucky there, but maybe not. What is this from? Where the heck is that? Oh, that's... Oh. You know what? That's from one that didn't even plot right there. So, that's interesting. So, how did it drop? What? Never mind the shark fin. My apologies. Tricked myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the shark fin exits off because I just looked at a shark fin thinking it was a CWAP. I was kind of wondering how we dropped that much in a CWAP win rate. Alright, there we go. So there's our signal. There's our win. Not a bad call at all. Basically off this bar right here. We're looking for any kind of good indication of bias. This is a great indication of bias right there. I like that a lot. Okay, here we go. Even this bad trade here kept a pretty good bias. So if we had taken a trade that was in tune with it off the momentum, we could have said, okay, CWAP did set the right tone for that short, but it just got choppy. So not a bad bias call. That's what we're looking for. Okay, here we go. Not a bad bias call there, actually. You could have hit buy all through here and ran that thing all the way up there. Okay, the short here is a little short-lived, but it's not bad. I mean, I'll zoom in, you have a better idea of how much of a call this one is. That would have been 50-something points from the sell point there. So I'm happy with that. We'll go look at one or two more, but I think I'm good with this setting, guys. I'm rolling with it. It endured. Okay, this one's terrible, but it's also right at the open, so... Or, not the open. No, open's here. So, no, that just shot up way up here. So, no, that's a... Yeah, it's a bad call on that one. There's a win. That's interesting there. What happened there? Alright. I'll live with it. I think I'm good with this one. I'm not going to cry about it. Right now, it looks like our momentum is actually setting at 70% for 10 days. I don't think it lasted though. Well, 66%. So maybe it isn't a bad setting. Let's see if we can't boost it a little bit on the total trades. I'd like to think we could. I'd like to think we could get maybe better. No, it's really 50% there. Let's see. Let's touch a couple things here and see if we can't make it better. Now let's go ahead and change. Thinking here what I want to do. Got it set to a 54. Stop loss, take profit. It's not bad. I mean, it's really not. The bar size I use, that actually fits really well. Let's go ahead and we're going to push the ADX to a lower setting. I believe that is the first thing I'm going to try. We're at 20. Let's go to 15. No new trades on the table from that. Let's try 10. Okay, so we upped our trade total, but the quality is not getting better, so let's try 5. We ended up with 1 extra trade there. Let's see. Didn't really help us a lot, so there are a couple things we can do. Let's try to up the BPMs here. Okay, so turning up the BPMs did help to 15. So there's a bunch of BPMs between 10 and 15. So the bars printing per minute, I don't want to go too much higher than 15 bars per minute. That is a really fast price action. So, because at that point you're getting slippage, and I don't like the risk of slippage. You kind of get out of the realm of accuracy. So to me, on my chart, 15 bars is usually enough for me to feel comfortable. And then if I go to 20, that's kind of the top end of where I want to push my luck. So I wonder if we put this back at 15, do we end up with a better setting or a worse setting? No, 3 wins, 2 losses. That's just not enough. What about 10? Even 10's not great. Let's try 0. 0 didn't do much, so we can leave it at 5, I guess. And then the minimum tick rate, tick separation here might be worth playing with. We're at 35. Let's try 50. Shoot. So it's at 6 wins, 2 losses. Now let's bump that out to 10 days again. We'll see if that carried on for the last 10 days. It's set to 5. Okay, so it did decay for the last week before, but this has only gotten better too, so I'm very tempted to just tweak this a pinch and see if we can't make this just what we want it to be. Alright, let's try 40 on the tick separation here. See if we can't get it just a little bit better overall. 50's, I mean, it's pretty rocking. We went to 59. I think we were at 60 before. I want to say 62. Okay, yeah, so 62 is a little better. Let's try 55. Let's see how bad it gets. Goodness gracious, that's nice. Okay, so 68%. I gotta live with that. Let's try 5 days again just to see, is it progressing in our way or against it? Yeah, I gotta roll with that, guys. 85% for the last 5 days. 6 wins and 2 losses. It's not a big sample. But over the course of 10 days, we have 20 trades. And it's really close to a 70% win rate. I like being around 70 when I can. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with that for now. Alright, so that's the momentum setting in the bands. I'll come back and touch the first and second entries on the bands here in a second. I want to see if I can't get the shark fin just tuned in a little bit better, because that one, it decayed pretty hard last week. We had a bunch of losses on it that I consider just really unfortunate, but it is what it is. Let's see, what do we want to do here? We had the 5-minute chart as a verification chart, so let's take that off. And what did we end up with? 55%? So it was helping. Dang, that's a ton of trades. Let's use like the 2-minute chart and see if that doesn't help as a verification chart. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Man, I don't know. Give me just a second to try something else. So right now, our thresholds are set to, I just realized I have it set to 35. It should be 25. So that is a huge mistake right there on my part, and I apologize for that. So let's try 20 and 80. That's probably why those oversold settings hit us so hard last week. The bearish settings were not correct. Okay, so 80-20 is a little better. Let's try the minute verification again with the 5-minute. Dang it. Alright, we'll go 75-25. I guess I fat-fingered that one in last week. Yep, it's a much better win rate. So, I can almost guarantee you, just by looking on this thing, we go to 5 days, this thing's going to be way better than it did for me last week. Oh no. Okay, so it's down to 33, so it still ate it. Okay, cool. We'll try 80-20 again here. This is the oversold and overbought criteria. And we'll take off the verification chart. That's pretty nice. So on that one, we end up with 57% just right there. And so we'll change this to 1 minute so we don't have to breach too many times. 1 minute didn't do it. 2 minutes definitely doing a better job. So it was 3, but 3's not. I think 2 had a few more trades. 4 minutes not kicking it like I wanted. Try 10 minute. No, 10 minutes too high. And depending on what chart you're using, your minute chart will line up differently. So you're going to have to play around with it to see which one really syncs up the best to give you those results that you're probably looking for here. And you can always use this in a reversal mode as well if you really want it to, so it can kind of forces it. Not beautiful. Okay, so we'll try this any minute chart here on some other charts. A 2 minute. Okay. Try that with any reversal. That means that if it becomes a valid overbought or oversold, it doesn't have to cross the Bollinger Band, and it doesn't have to cross the RSI threshold again to take a trade. It just means it's going to take one. So this setting is definitely not robust. It's only got 10 trades for 10 days. That's a trade a day. So I don't love it just because it's not a sample I'd want to roll with. Here's what I'm going to do though. If this thing is really good over a long period of time, we might roll with this. We'll try 20 days. Give it a nice setting over a long period and see how it does. Alright, so over 20 days we have a lot more trades. We are definitely in a sample rate I feel more comfortable with, but it's also 20 days, not 10 or 5. So the tuning is going to be a little bit out of step with that more recent price action that I like to be in step with. We got 19 wins, 13 losses. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Also don't love it. I'm gonna say I think we could do better. Although 80% is tempting, I'm not gonna lie. We'll save this one. It's kind of if we can't get better, we'll do better, but with what we have, I'd like to think we could do better. Let's take a look. This is basically gonna take any reversal, so let's try the 3-minute chart. That's still pretty good. It's not 80%. That's 10 trades both ways. Yeah, that's not a big enough step in the right direction though. I think 2 minutes is really, it's hitting it hard. I like it. Let's try that. We'll change the Bollinger to something crazy. Nah, didn't do anything. Make it faster. Huh. That's interesting. Okay, so we didn't really go the direction I thought we would by going faster. It didn't go down a lot. It's doing well. Like, surprisingly well. We'll go to 16 again. Look at this. So you get 8 wins, 5 losses, and just jumping up to 18, you just get such a better win rate. 20, it's got same almost win rate. You got 1 more loss. Try 19 here. Ooh. Yeah, same thing as 19 and 18 pretty much. So I'm not gonna even say that's worth looking at. Try this. You lose too many trades. Okay, so 1.9. Let's try 1.9. 2.1. We're right in that area where it's just, I think we're just hitting that curve fit right there. Yeah, it's got to be a curve fit setting in the 2 area, which isn't bad. I mean, I don't mind curve fitting to the market conditions. That's actually kind of my strategy. So I like being right on target with the market as much as I can be. We will try this though. We're going to go up on the RSI one. Okay, so we were at 11. Going to go another to 14. See if it just keeps decaying or if, well, 100% now. 3 trades. It looks like we're out of realm here now, so I don't think we're going to get any better if we go higher. Unless I'm just completely mistaken, but that's what it looks like to me. Try 13. Oh, we did there. It was 11, right? Okay, 11 has 10 trades. Try 10. So we do get, okay, we do get 13 trades with this RSI setting at 10. That's insanely fast though. So I'm gonna look at a higher rate of days again just to see. But first I want to see what 5 days is. Okay, so we do lose a little bit of a win rate here on 5 days, but that's well, was it a bigger sample? Yeah, it is a bigger sample. Okay, so we're a little better on 5 days. Let's try the 20 real quick and just see what this did over a little bit of a longer period of time. This might be the setting for us. We'll see. It's definitely a bigger sample rate for 20 days. We're still in that 60% win rate era. For a 1-to-1, it's a green setting. It's not my favorite setting, but it is profitable. Let's try 15 days. I want to see how this thing decreased or increased over that 5-day period there. Okay, so it did go up quite a bit. And this just got better and better with time. So the thought is we would want to be hopefully on the right side of this, not on the wrong side of this. It did drop a little bit. So it's possible we're seeing decay. Hopefully we still have a good win rate overall. Let's take a look at these signals. I mean, that's over 5 days, right? So at least 1 a day here. All right, so we're calling one here, calling one here. Let's go ahead and turn off the CWAP exits. And we'll turn the shark fin exits on. Okay. So it's there. It's 61 or 67%, 71%. Not the bottom. I like it when it really kind of gets into the bottom. Now, there's a great top. I will say I do like the top here. That's really nice. Yeah, that's lovely. I like that a lot. Let's see here. We did call one prematurely here. Then you get a nice one there. Can't complain about that. Premature. Okay, so it's like a second entry thing here. What the hell? That's it. Okay. It wasn't that many. I thought it was 7. guess I'm missing one. It says that we got 8 trades. I must have missed 1 or 2. Oh, let's see one more time here. Those are decent. Oh, there's one. Oh, it hit? I guess it says it hit. So it did hit down there. That would have been a close one, but it did hit. So that's about 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're counting up. Yeah, I think they're all on here. And then you had 1 or 2 in the beginning, so it won't usually count the very first one in the trade count because it doesn't have an equation to work on. So total of 8, and that one's a loss. So yeah, not the best settings in the world, but not bad either. 75% win rate. I guess I'll roll with it. I'm tempted to change it, but I'm gonna roll with it. Alright, now back to the band. So, as you can see, we smoked it with the win rate on the first entries last week. But this second entries were, I think we had 1. I want to say we had 1. It was like Monday or Tuesday, so looking back 5 days, we're not even seeing it. However, I will say this, even though it was only 1, it did smoke it. It was a good call if I remember, so I don't want to completely just trash last week's settings. They weren't bad at all. Let's go ahead and load up 10 days, and we do now see, okay, so we're at 85% win rate, but only 7 trades, so it's kind of, it's just not that great of a total trade count. So it's also only hitting basically an average of 0.5 to 1, which really isn't that great of an exit. So let's bump up our exit just a bit. Go to 18. Alright, dropped our win rate to 80%, but it took our estimated risk to reward to almost 0.7, 0.69. That is a lot better. Let's try 20. Alright, that gets us a lot closer to a 1-to-1, and our win rate is not really hurting that bad here, so I'm tempted to just run with that. That is really sexy to me. Dang. Okay, so let's try 25 to see if we can't get... Okay, so there the win rate just decayed like crazy, so... I think 20. That looks like our setting right there to me. I don't want to drop it too much. Try 22, just see if we're in that realm of losing. Okay, so it's really close on a 20. I'll go to 19. That way we can clip out the exits a little bit more. It's still, I mean, a 0.75 to 1 risk to reward ratio with an 80% win rate. If it carries through, that should be pretty good. We'll go ahead and check 5 days. Do we get any extra trades? Just the 1. Okay, so it's really low probability on getting your trades, but when it happens, I think, okay, there's the one we had. That was a really good one, and that's how it's exiting. So that's just a little bit past the bands, and you can see our first entry did suffer a little bit by doing the slower exit band, but even though it's lower, it's a slower exit band, it's just a better profit margin altogether. So I don't usually take first entries anyways. I do count them in the total on our P&Ls at the end of it, but I like to just kind of rely on the second entries. They're just a little bit more higher probability on my chart from what I'm seeing. So let's take a look at a 20-day and see what this thing spits out here. Didn't really change much, which is good. I mean, it's probably a little more consistent. 20 days on the 71% win rate. That's definitely going to be profitable with that risk to reward average there. So if we're lucky, that'll carry on through the week, and we can say that's our setting. And I think we're pretty much going to wrap it up right there, guys. I'm going to look at the news real quick before we do, but I think this is it. Alright, yeah, let's pull up the news real quick before we call it. And it does look It looks like Monday does have some news. I was hoping we wouldn't have more news this week like we did last week, but man, just think it's been a heavy news year so far. So Monday you get a 10 o'clock Eastern news, ISM, manufacturing, PMI. Tuesday there is news again, same time, it's jobs. That'll probably move the market. Wednesday, more PMI and non-farm. That could be a big day as well. Goodness, every single day we got red news, guys. So every single day, including non-farm and unemployment on Friday. So we've got some different news things here this week. It probably are going to push the market around. So make sure you're setting your skip filters in the Predator. If you're using Predator, if you're not, what are you doing? You're crazy. I highly recommend checking out Predator if you don't use it. That's what I use to enter trades. On all of my indicators, I have a tag for all the signals. You go in, you plug whatever name you want in the signal for the buy or sell, and you pretty much set what you want in that. So I know that the CWAP currently does not have an off exit. I'm working on that, but I will say this: the entries, put C buy, C sell with the exact spelling into the Predator entry, and it will automatically take your entry as long as it's enabled. But be sure to set your time skip filters this week, guys. It's another heavy news week. These wild heavy news weeks can change the dynamic of the market in a heartbeat. So do the time skip filter, and then I'm going to go back over this, bump this back down to about, I'll do 5 days on here. And the last thing I'm going to set before I call it is the decay filter for the minimum win rates. And so I'm going to ask myself, how far do I want this win rate to decay before I say that's just too much? And for the CWAP, I'm going to make that a 60% win rate. I'm thinking maybe even 58, somewhere in that realm there. If the decay goes down past there, signals will no longer print. I won't be taking those trades, even if I leave it running without me being there. And the same with shark fin. We are at a 75% win rate now, and a 70 on the CWAP. And so I'm going to say for the minimum on the shark fin, I'm probably going to set it to about a 62. A 60 as well. And then the bands, let's look up here. I hate to set a setting on the second entries because they just aren't there. But the first entries, I could probably set those if I really wanted. I'm just not even going to take them, so I'm not going to worry about them. And that, I think it leaves everything set. So I'm going to go ahead and save my indicators like that. That's how I'm going to do it. You guys, don't just follow me. Use your own heads, use your own math, and make sure your minimum win rates make sense to you and what you're willing to risk if it does decay that far. I know a lot of people, they just let it run. They don't think about decay. But when you get news like this, where you got one red day after another, it only takes like one or two really weird things in the world to just spin the characteristic of the market in a different direction. And then, a smooth market could become a really choppy market, or vice versa. And so you might go from a really hard trend to a range, or like a really choppy range to a really smooth range. Or you might go right into a trend. It might just bust out in a trend. You don't have a setting to catch any of the moves. So it's one of those things where you can get bid on it. You can get lucky. But a lot of times, if you're not thinking it through, you can get bit. So it's not a bad idea to set some minimum win rates. Make the market kind of earn it and prove it. And if it starts really decaying, then you'll end up usually a lot better off if you got that minimum win rate in place. That way you don't kind of get bid on the back end. The only thing I'll say about that extra is this: every day is going to add a day, and you're going to drop a day as well. So last week, I've got 3 or 4 days on my chart with 5 days loaded. So last week, whenever I lose a day, I'm going to eventually hit the weekend and lose probably at least 2 days, and so that can drastically change your win rate pretty quick. So you might come back and say, okay, I just want to look at the last 3 realistic days, or maybe the last days of the week that are actually active, and kind of work just with those. And so you might have to add a day, or chop it down to 2 or 3, and then just kind of let that win rate kind of prove itself with a lot smaller pieces of data. And since the data is all coming off of whatever is loaded on the chart and nothing more, you're basically working with whatever data you have on the chart. So if you only have 7, 8 trades to calculate that win rate, that's it. I mean, there's no other data that's going to pull out of it and make that win rate happen. So it's a little bit easier if you have a smaller sample rate to change that win rate versus maybe a 10 to 20 trade sample rate, where it's going to take 3, 4, or 5 more trades, more days worth of trades to drop the rate. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit, gets people thinking a little bit about that. I personally, I really am thankful that I have these minimal win rate filters on there to kind of stop the DK from kicking me. It's just you can't always just look at it as a black and white setting, since the market is live and it is moving. You will have data that falls off, as well as if you pull a day off, it'll pull an entire day's worth of samples off of that calculation. So I hope that didn't confuse anyone. Hope it makes sense. I think it's pretty easy to grasp once you understand it. So all right, guys, hope everyone had a really good weekend. I hope you have a great trading week. I'm wishing you success. I hope people come out winning this week, especially with all the news. I'm rooting for you. So until next time, this is Chompsky, and I will talk to you later.